Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. My name is Abe Hunter, and I'm the founder of the Lead Society, and I'm with my trusty co host from sunny Florida, Richard Olarsaba. Richard,
Hey, it actually is sunny because it's during the daytime.
I know this is a special edition of the Lead Society Roundtable done before sunset, which is highly unusual. So we're awake. Um,
Mostly.
and today, our special guest from sunny New York,
New Jersey.
New Jersey today.
New Jersey.
Is it sunny there?
It is not. It's terribly overcast.
No other than Eric Einhorn. Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And you are the general director and artistic director or co-general
It's a lot of
director
yes, it's a lot of words.
of OnSite Opera. Would you
I
tell
am.
us a little bit about what OnSite Opera is?
Absolutely. So OnSite Opera is a small opera company based out of New York City that is dedicated to site-specific immersive opera productions. So we perform in just about anywhere except a theater. We match the space to the piece for a truly immersive kind of experience.
Excellent. I mean, and what a great way to not only acquaint audiences with, opera in general and classical music, but just like their own surroundings.
Exactly, and it's been really fascinating to see since we started this in 2012. Um, we get a lot of feedback from audience members who are native New Yorkers who come to these venues for the first time to sort of rediscover their own city. So that's been a really great byproduct of the work.
What are some of the venues that you have performed in?
We've performed in the Museum of Natural History in the Dinosaur Hall, which was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. We performed in a gallery at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Those are some of the sort of the loftier places we performed. Just before the pandemic hit, we did a musical in a barbecue restaurant in Chelsea,
Yes.
which was a lot
Wonderful.
of fun. We've also performed in a lot of historic townhouses, event spaces, places like that. So a really wide range of places all throughout the city.
Excellent. And as far as like those productions, did the significance of the locale had anything to do with the production itself? Like, or did it reflect something in the work?
Always that the whether we're doing a pre-existing piece or a world premiere, that the location that we perform in always has some connection, whether it's direct, like for instance, we did Ricky Ian Gordon's Morning Star, which takes place on the Lower East Side of Manhattan about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. And so we performed it in the Eldridge Street Synagogue, which has historical connection to those people who would have been affected by the Shirtwaist fire. So there was a real historical connection. Versus we did the Paisiello Barber of Seville, the one that came before the Rossini, in a beautiful historic mansion on the Upper East Side of Manhattan that didn't have direct historical significance in terms of the piece itself, but was just a wonderful setting for it. So it depends. And then when we do world premieres, for instance, the pieces we did at the Natural History Museum and at the Met Museum were created specifically for those galleries, both in terms of what artifacts and art were there, but also the artists related to those galleries. So it really runs the whole spectrum.
Yes.
And the barbecue?
So that was our first venture into musical theater, and it was co-directed by myself and Catherine M. Carter. The piece was called Das Barbecue, and it was originally commissioned by Seattle Opera in the 90s as a companion to their Ring cycle. And it basically takes, it's mostly focusing on Götterdämmerung, but there are bits and pieces of the other operas in the cycle, all retold in a country western musical. It's delightful and charming, and we did it as dinner theater.
Well, how was the cornbread?
Delicious. Hill Country Barbecue is where we performed it, and it was great. And I know if you're in New York right now, they are doing lots of curbside pickup in the pandemic, so highly recommend.
Is it
Delicious food.
Ding.
is it a moist crumb?
It yes, it is.
Thank
So
you.
get yourself to Chelsea and get some barbecue.
Yeah.
Those are my questions for today.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'll be on my way.
So, Eric, interesting to think about what OnSite Opera was doing prior to the pandemic. You guys have actually adapted very, like, interestingly, I would say, just like how you've been able to translate on-site, like in a physical locale, to adapting to this new digital, like virtual platform that we've all had to adapt to since the pandemic hit. What have you guys been doing since?
So when the pandemic hit, it became a real existential crisis of how do you remain a site-specific opera company when at the core of what you do is about gathering people at a very specific location. This is not about being in a theater that could be anywhere or transplanted digitally or anything like that, in the same way that other companies that perform in a more traditional proscenium setup could. And so as a team, we really put our heads together and thought, how do we pivot? How do we stay true to mission and don't just create content for the sake of creating content, but how do we do it in a way that is relevant to us and speaks to our mission? And for that, in the early days of the pandemic, I just was kind of casting as wide a net as I could, and started to take a cue from our friends in the immersive theater community, and a phenomenon that's been around for a while, and that's of the phone play. And I participated in one. I bought a ticket just to see what it was about, to see if it was actually something that could be transferable to opera. And the play that I attended was me and an actress on the phone. And I was helping her out of some hostage situation or something like that. And it was riveting. It was a lot of fun. And so we just started the process internally of figuring out how do we transfer this? What are the ways that we can get it done? Of course, we were all dealing with the discovery in the early days of the pandemic, which was digital latency, which I don't think anybody had ever thought about ahead of this. So we were trying to figure that out, and it became this mission of how do we create this thing, and it led us to wanting to work with singers and pianists that cohabitated, and at the same time, I had remembered in all of this, what was forgotten was that this is the 250th Beethoven year.
True.
Which, poor guy, lost out on a lot. I mean, it's terrible. Bernstein got all the stuff last year.
Right.
Beethoven gets hardly anything. But in trying to figure out what to do, my mind went down the rabbit hole initially of what opera could we do? How could we bring opera repertoire? And I just remember one night sitting in my home office, looking at my bookshelf crammed with scores. And my training is in singing. I used to be a singer and a huge fan of art song. And on my shelf was Andi Fernegalipta, a cycle that I had sung in college that I love to the end of time.
It's so beautiful.
It's amazing. And I started flipping through it and I thought, oh my God, listen to this poetry. This is what's happening now. Separation, longing. And it was one of those moments where I thought, if I don't do this right now, somebody else is going to. So
Fair.
we mobilized very quickly. And that's something that I love about the entire company of OnSite, is that everyone is ready to be flexible and pivot as needed. And we commissioned a great playwright, Monet Hurst Mendoza, to write dialogue to bookend the performance of this song cycle, so it comes across as a true theatrical experience, not just a recital over the phone, but there's a reason why these things are being performed. And so we were able to launch that in the summer, right at a time when we were the weather was getting nicer and people were experiencing Zoom fatigue with whatever content they were taking in. So it was a really great opportunity to provide live performance and then get it away from the computer.
I mean, and what ingenuity to, like, you know, everyone has a computer, everyone has a screen, but why not like go back a step further and say like, no, you all have phones, so
Mm-hmm.
let's use that. Like, you know,
Right.
it's just as much audio as you could get from your speakers.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the curiosity of it, how did you make it work? Calling
It
people up, so to speak, and singing to them through the phone.
what has been really lovely to realize, and through a lot of what we've been doing, and our current project included in that, is we've actually been going pretty low tech. Everyone is investing in virtual reality, augmented reality, video, filming, all those things, which we are looking into and working on in a separate way. But for the Beethoven, it was someone's computer, an external mic, which we provided, and a Google Voice connection. That was it. And it was, we would, in the ticket purchasing process, we would gather phone numbers, and at the appointed time that the person bought their performance for, our performers would make the call. And most of the time, I'd say 98% of the time, it went smoothly. Some people were gifted this experience, and so even though they were sent emails, because part of it, before you got the call, you received 2 emails from your beloved ahead of time to say, I can't wait to talk to you. It was part immersive theatrical element, but also an email reminder. You have a performance on X date at Y time. So we wanted to make it as immersive as we could. So they got 2 of those, but sometimes, you know, things got a little screwed up, or they didn't know it was coming. So we got a few hiccups that way. We got a lesson in time zone publication.
Welcome to my world.
People were getting, there were 1 or 2 calls that they didn't realize we were on the East Coast. They had purchased on the West Coast, so there were really early calls for a few people. Why you call? I'm eating breakfast right now. Why are you calling me? So it was a learning process for sure, but most of the time it went very smoothly. And what was great is that we had international patrons, and it was just a wonderful opportunity to increase the footprint of OnSite, especially now as we've been continuing remote work. We've retained that audience base. We've been able to include them and keep sharing the work that we're doing.
Now, was anyone like, why is my beloved's ghost calling me at 6 a.m?
There were a couple of really bittersweet performance reports we would get from the singers of audience members who had expressed that a partner or a family member had recently passed, and this kind of reconnected them with that. So there was some really beautiful moments. We even got audience members who responded in kind to our emails, because the emails would be, my beloved, I can't wait to talk to you. And we received responses back of, oh, I can't wait. This is going to be the highlight of my week. So it really, it hit that sweet spot, I think, at a time when people were really yearning for personal connection.
And you think about all those performances, you come off the stage and there's that one person, that one lady who's like really into it, and she's like, oh, it felt like you were singing just to me. And in actuality, in this case, they were.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was that individualized live performance element that I think made it work. And the balance we had to strike was that personal touch versus high definition studio quality audio, because it was over the phone. I mean, there was no getting around the quality issue of that. But what people really responded to was that it felt like they were listening to their favorite record. It was that scratchy, nostalgic quality to it. So that really was great.
It didn't need to be in 4K high fidelity. You know, the emotion was transferred over the waves somehow.
The good old days.
Like the good old days.
Right.
And like, I remember after, I will say, like, the success of the opera over the phone, that you guys actually, I looked at the analytics. You guys were very successful. And how many performances did you end up? How many calls did you end up making, if you remember?
200.
Wow.
Wow.
200 calls. And that was just our round of it. That after we did it, it caught the attention, thanks to the great press that it got, of a festival in Australia that at the time, Australia had gone into its second wave of lockdown, and this festival, run by Gertrude Opera in Australia, had to wrestle with this idea of shutting down their festival and shifting to digital, which my understanding was in Australia, nothing like that had happened yet, that companies hadn't gone digital as much as they had in the US. And so they had done a great job of reaching out internationally to put together a festival of digital offerings, and ours included in that. And it was really great because I got to rehearse with them over Zoom. And whereas we were working with two singer pianist couples in New York, they were working with 4 singers and pianists all across Australia. So it was a really great way to see the project bloom like that.
Should we watch a little clip from
Sure.
this? Okay, here we go. Oh, would you introduce our performers?
Yes, this is the soprano Jennifer Zetlin and pianist David Shimoni.
Very good.
For now, let me sing them to you. Oh, I've written the music to be continuous, so there won't be any breaks between the songs. And I'll be using my full singing voice, so you might need to adjust your volume. Auf dem Hügel sitz ich spähend in das blaue Meerland, nach den fernen Triften sehend, wo ich dich, Geliebte, fand. Weit bin ich von dir geschieden, trennend liegen Berg und Tal, zwischen uns und unserem Frieden, unserem Glück und unserer Qual.
How fabulous to hear that in a soprano voice. Normally it's tenor.
Right.
I love it. I think it's just fantastic.
So Eric,
Amazing.
like you said, 200 performances. You had 2 pairs, Jen Zetlin and Dave Shimoni being one pair. So was that 100 performances per pair?
It was.
Wow, what an undertaking!
And Richard, I can't believe you did that math so quickly. I was still.
I mean, I'm going to give a little shout out to my mother, who is a calculus teacher. So if I can't do that simple math, then shame on me.
It's a remarkable amount of performances, and my God, now they know that cycle for the rest of their life.
They really do. And I will give them a lot of credit. So the other duo was Mario Diaz-Moresco, that was a baritone, and Spencer Meyer, the pianist. And both pairs would perform this sometimes 6 or 7 times in a weekend,
Wow.
multiple times a day. It was truly a feat of strength
May I ask,
for all of them.
was it an intentional decision to choose a soprano and baritone as opposed to tenors for this?
Well, I was always gonna be partial to a baritone performing this. That I knew was, for me, the real key, because between you and me and Zoom, I think the baritone key is the better key of the piece. But that's okay,
We'll keep this just between us.
Great,
And Beethoven.
great,
He'll be fine.
right,
He'll be fine.
fine. We knew we wanted a low voice and a high voice, and with the baritone so etched in my mind, was pretty clear that it should be. We wanted the balance of having a male voice and a female voice.
I love hearing the soprano voice sing it. Just
yeah,
fabulous.
It was really just a completely different character to the whole cycle.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Eric, like you said, something that's inherent with OnSite Opera, its flexibility, its malleability to adapt to the situation, to a pandemic, over the phone, and even like you said, the repertoire where, thinking of adapting to a new platform, what could you do? Could you do something that is normally theatrical, or as you like discovered for yourself, doing a song cycle using art song in that kind of application? Going forward, is OnSite using song as a vehicle for more of its projects?
OnSite is leaning heavily on art song this year. So after the Beethoven, our next project was actually going to be a project through the mail. We knew that was happening. It actually started as an outgrowth of examining this kind of low tech idea that we'd use the phone, and then we in our conversations internally, we just kept on going backwards of what came before that. What was sort of what's more rudimentary than that? What gets us away from the computer the most? And the mail, it was sort of the next thing. And for me, I'm a subscriber to a monthly murder mystery sort of immersive at home activity thing. It's called Hunt a Killer. There's my second endorsement for the After Hill Country. That's right. And it's this box of immersive stuff. And it got my creative juices flowing. And I wanted to know if there was a way that model could transfer to opera. And we had gone down that path originally with an opera, with a small chamber opera. And we went down a whole process of planning and working on it. And unfortunately, after several months of working on it, we came to understand that the composer, before he passed away, had not gotten the rights to set the material from the original novel that the opera was based on. So we had to scramble really quickly. We had all the workings in place for a by mail experience, but now no piece. And we spent, it was, I think, in the end of July, early August, where we had to pivot. And I'd done a lot of brainstorming with Jeff McDonald, our music director, to figure out what else we could do in that model. And we looked at letters, we looked at operatic letters, we looked at, and then that quickly got us to art song. And because both Jeff and I are huge art song fans, it was an easy move over. Plus, seeing how people responded to the Beethoven, it was obvious that there was dramatic potential there. And so we ended up shifting from letters to diaries.
Well, it's, if I may say so myself, as the founder of the Lead Society, it's brilliant. But our one of our advisory board members, the preeminent Schubert scholar, Dr. Susan Ewens, always likes to say that there's enough drama packed into into a tiny art form in 2 minutes as there is in the Texas-sized real estate of an opera. So, just I think it's you're innovating, you're leading the way, so to speak.
Love that.
There it is.
I've been saving that all day.
So Eric, like you were saying, this transferring to mail and from letters to diaries, that's part of the project that's in the works currently, correct? The beauty that still remains? We launched that project 2 weeks ago. It started mailing. And so we're in the thick of that, and it'll be available for the next couple of months. So that is 3 diary-based song cycles that looks at the flip side of the Beethoven, whereas the Beethoven was about that interpersonal connection that we're all longing for in the pandemic, especially. This is about that more introspective part of it, of those moments of quiet, of all of us having to sit and reevaluate or take stock with all this extra time and isolation that we have, and looking at journaling and keeping a diary as an essential cathartic tool right now for all of us, and to see how that's played out through history. And so we ended up
picking these 3 diaries based on dramatic content, musical content, but also vocal variety, all those sorts of things, and ended up with the Janacek Diary of One Who Vanished, which is a cycle that I have staged before, and so that got me excited in its inherent dramatic possibilities. And I know as a piece, it lies in that weird gray area of it's not quite song cycle, it's not quite opera, but somewhere in between. And then following that up with Argento's Diary of Virginia Woolf, which is a cycle that I knew of peripherally, and now I'm so glad that I know so much more intimately now. And then to round out the cycle, we selected Juliana Hall's World Turned Upside Down, which is based on the Diary of Anne Frank.
And Juliana Hall, of course, is a friend of our Lead Society, and she commented that she's so delighted that we were able to get together. We also
She's
have
a wonderful, wonderful artist.
Indeed. And we also have a comment from somebody named Stella Olarsaba, who says math and music go together. Who I have to say...
Got the math right, Mom.
I just have to say, I was a terrible... People are like, oh, you must be good at math. I'm like, I can barely add. But yes, I agree. They go together. I just can't count. But tell us about this the most recent mailing that and the song cycle by our friend Julie Hall.
So it was really, really wonderful. So each of the packages that the audience receives is, as I like to say, it's kind of a souped up wedding invitation. It's an envelope that has lots of flaps, that has lots of materials to explore and uncover. There's in each box contains an essay about the cycle or about the subject. For Juliana's cycle, there's a great article by a journalist named Aaron Blakemore about Anne Frank and how the diary became the international sensation that it is. And then there is a replica of the diary in each of these boxes. So our graphic designer, who is an amazing designer named Stephanie Rayer, out of the Philadelphia area, she designed these incredible booklets that take the diary, and we worked with various organizations to get the right clearances, to use some images from the diary of Anne Frank and kind of rebuild it for our own purposes. And we enlisted the help of a few handwriting forgers, as it were, to write the song text, which of course is in English in Juliana's cycle, while Anne Frank wrote in Dutch. So we needed to get something that looked like it could have been Anne Frank's handwriting. And again, Stephanie did an incredible job to put that all together. And you get this diary that looks like Anne's diary with the song text laid out as Anne would have laid it out. And each diary ends with 4 or 5 diary prompts for the audience member based on the cycle that they've just listened to. And Anne Frank, it ranges from what was the greatest birthday gift you ever received, because of course she received her first diary on her 13th birthday, to things more about emotional struggle and sort of hope for the future. So it runs the gamut for Anne Frank, for Virginia Woolf certainly as well, and for the Janacek.
So you're providing music as well as like good old like therapy at the same time. How to cope in these days?
I think so. Using art song, that intimate art form, as a therapeutic device, for sure, is what's happening.
The composer herself has commented that Christina Maria Castro and Howard Watkins, under Eric's direction, have recorded an amazingly effective production of her songs. I could not be happier with this performance.
Oh, thank you, Juliana. Yes. Thank you for writing such incredible music for us.
So, Eric, with what you've done, with what you're currently doing, is OnSite planning anything for the rest of the year, for 2021, beyond the diaries?
We are, and Art Song continues to play a significant part in what we're doing. So our next project is in the spring. It's a big multimedia interdisciplinary project called The Road We Came, and it's a series of 3 musical walking tours around 3 neighborhoods in Manhattan: Lower Manhattan, Midtown, Hell's Kitchen, and then Harlem.
Will it go by the barbecue restaurant?
It will. We never quite dip over there, but someday.
You might have to take a lunch break. I think Abe is
Right,
suggesting.
That's right.
I'm coming to town for this, but we're going to the barbecue place afterwards.
Absolutely. And so the walking tours, it's a collaboration with baritone Kenneth Overton, historian Eric K. Washington, and Ryan and Tanya McKinney. Ryan, of course, being a great baritone, but Ryan and Tanya have created a production company called Keep the Music Going, which pivoted very early on in the pandemic to video, and they've been doing some great work for Glimmerglass, Washington National, Atlanta Opera. And so we've teamed up to create these walking tours, which will be about 5 or 6 locations in each neighborhood, focusing on Black music and Black music history, African-American composers and performers throughout the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries.
That sounds amazing. And Kenneth Overton, what a fabulous artist, and what an amazing collaborator. How lucky.
It's such a great team. And again, for that, it started as, well, let's make this opera and art song. And then as we further planned, it became very clear that really art song won the day. It's creating such a wonderful survey of African-American composition throughout the 19th and 20th centuries that it unfortunately left no room for any sort of opera. But I don't think it suffers for it. I think it really, because again, each song will be filmed at the location that the audience is then invited to go to on this self-guided walking tour, that there's again that intimacy of hearing the performance by Kenny in front of Langston Hughes' house or the African burial ground downtown, that you look at the video, you'll be listening to the song, and then being in the space itself, I think will be quite impactful.
You're brilliant.
So I love these ideas of, not only making it immersive, but making it interactive. It seems like, especially like you said with the diaries, like you're giving prompts, you're getting your own reading material, you're essentially getting all those things. If you went to like a museum or a presentation where they're like, here, this is your study material, and lo and behold, you end up learning something at the end of one of these performances, whether you intended to or not. Especially like what you said with the Anne Frank, portion of the diaries, that you actually are getting samples and trying to duplicate. Like you can actually get into the actual perspective of who these people were when they wrote the diaries. Absolutely.
And the great thing about Virginia Woolf is that we worked with this great Virginia Woolf scholar named Drew Shannon, who has been specializing for many years in the diary itself. And through his amazing work with us, got us access to actual pages from Virginia Woolf's diary, which usually aren't accessible only but to scholars. And so to be able to bring that to audiences is quite significant. And I don't know if anybody, I think that part of it, we didn't really talk about that much in the flurry of everything else, but it will be discussed. We also have a series of online panels that accompany each of these diaries. The first one was last week with a great Romani educator and activist named Petra Gelbart, all about the Romani culture and the racism around gypsy portrayal in song and opera, specifically from the Janacek point of view, which was wonderfully attended and really a wonderful, a great discussion, which we're going to end up repeating later in the winter for other patrons. And then next week, I think, 15th of December, we have our panel with Drew Shannon and Vanessa Caridi about Virginia Woolf. And then 2 weeks after that, is a panel I'm looking forward to a lot, which is just a conversation with Juliana about.
Doesn't love a panel with Juliana.
Right. It's true. It's true.
So with the pandemic, hopefully we'll be back to in-person performances sooner rather than later. What, like personally, like Eric, what do you see for yourself, for OnSite Opera, the future being, like this adaptation of digital and virtual content, this interactive portion that you guys are already practicing? When people are able to get back to the theater, do you feel like you guys are going to still be generating like productions in the same way, or maybe a little bit of both?
Maybe a little bit of both. We've talked about internally the non-pandemic benefits of remote performances, in that it allows us to reach people beyond our normal footprint of New York City. It allows us to make what we do more accessible. That if you have mobility issues or whatever, or health, or any sort of issue that prevents you from engaging in a live performance, leaving a location to go to any venue that we're in, this gives people opportunity. It opens an accessibility channel that we hadn't really thought of before. So it's definitely in our consciousness to want to try to keep doing this kind of production, as well as live and in person, which I think the minute we can do it and audiences feel safe, people are going to flock to it. They're gonna drop, anybody who will drop digital content faster than they can recognize, to run back to the theater.
I can't wait.
Me too.
Eric, can we share your reel?
Please. Speaking of live performance,
let's just reminisce about the good old days. Here we go.
Please.
Oh my God. Was that a real snake?
It was. It was. That was another sort of crossover art song opera experience. That was from a gala and a short performance run we did. It was a double bill of the Berlioz' Death of Cleopatra with the Argento Miss Havisham's Wedding Night.
Oh,
yes.
Oh.
So two amazing powerhouse female monodramas, and the incredible mezzo Blythe Gaysert as Cleopatra with a real snake. And that's one of those moments that I was in rehearsal. It was going really well, and I had too much time on my hands. I think it was at an orchestral rehearsal, and I was thinking, what we should do? We should get a real snake. So I spent the rehearsal half listening to the orchestra, half Googling snake handlers on my phone. By the end of the rehearsal, I went up to Blythe and I said, "So what would you say if I asked you to handle a real snake in all of this?" And she's like, "Great, would love it."
And the snake's name for credit?
I
don't worry, we'll edit this in post.
Great. I'm a terrible director, and then I forgot the performer's name.
It's okay, Eric. They don't have a union, so snakes don't need the representation yet.
That's right. This is the watershed moment, right here.
Right at this moment, rights for reptiles.
This is the skin shedding moment right here.
Stop.
Okay.
And on that note, no.
We can edit all of that out.
Oh no, we're gonna keep that one, Eric. We're gonna keep that one.
This is going on my reel, actually.
But with, like you said, with adjusting and everything and leaning on art song, and even though OnSite had done it before and you've done it in other projects, do you see that with the interest that you gained in these like past 9 months, that more art song centric productions are going to be a mainstay of OnSite?
I think so. It not only seeing how the audience responds to the intimacy of the drama, but also, frankly, from a producerial standpoint, to have the forces needed for art song performance are of course much smaller, and in a time for the foreseeable future, even when we're back in live performance, we're not going to be able to have 10, 12, 20 people on stage. We're going to have to rely on the single performer, the single instrumentalist, or a small chamber group. So in my mind, art song is here to stay for quite a while.
And that's not such a bad thing, because there's the breadth of and depth of the repertoire is huge, and will tell
Huge.
whatever story you want it to tell.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, in any language, at any time. I mean, what you could expand to put under the umbrella of art song is pretty significant. So, I think it's a well of potential repertoire to stage.
Do you have a wish list or anything that you would like to see done, even if it's not through you guys?
I mean, this goes way back, sort of pre-definitional art song. But I'm a huge fan of Monteverdi madrigals, and the drama in that, but more contemporary. Who doesn't love Schubert in any way, shape, or form? Just, if only he'd written one or two good tunes, but
Just a few.
just a few. But actually, mid 20th century English art song. Being a former baritone.
How about some Finzi?
Some Finzi. I love Finzi. Love some Vaughan Williams.
Yes.
Just incredible material.
Eric, will you tell us how to find and to order this and be a part of this?
Yeah, so you can visit our website, which is osopera.org. And there's a banner that shows up that takes you to the beauty that still remains, and take you right to the purchasing site. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. You can find us on LinkedIn if you're so inclined. Everywhere, just to stay connected with us, join our email list, and so you can find out just how to stay connected with us. And our productions, when they're live, are typically, the audiences are very small, and so we have this nasty habit of selling out very quickly. And so that's why I encourage people to become members of our email list, so they can find out exactly when things go on sale. We have an amazing community of supporters that when we say tickets go on sale 10 a.m. on Monday, people are waiting at their computers because they know that things go quickly. And so I've just been so lucky and grateful for all of our friends and supporters and community that has rallied behind OnSite through all of these changes we've had to do, and has gone on this journey with us. And we are here for them. We know that they're for us, and we just are excited to keep going.
Eric, I'm sorry, Richard. No, you go ahead.
Go right ahead, Abe.
Oh no. After you.
See, he's from the Twin Cities. He's very, very courteous about all this and very welcoming to take have someone else take the lead. No, but what I was going to say is,
you just say lead?
Like you said, stop. But like you said, Eric, with the nature of OnSite Opera being very intimate and selling out very quickly, like that's another benefit, I guess you could say, of the virtual and digital content, that you're able to have more people partake. Of course, like with the Beethoven project, you can only perform so many times. Like, you can only do like a Beethoven cycle so many times in a day, and then the poor teams are just like, I'm done. Well, it's enough.
Speak for yourself.
True. There's never too much Beethoven, ever.
True.
Eric, thank you so much for talking about your project, and I hope everyone takes a moment to order this. I know that's what I'm going to do when I log off this conversation.
Excellent.
Eric from New Jersey, thank you. my Richard.
Thank you so much.
My Richard from sunny Florida. Thank you
Yeah.
for this episode. And now's the time where we play our theme music. And Eric, this is when you can give shout outs to whomever you'd like.
Oh, excellent.
Here we go.
Great.
All right. It's playing.
Great. I want to give a shout out to my amazing team at OnSite and our board at OnSite, everybody that supports what we do, and everyone who has kept opera and performing arts going through the pandemic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, gentlemen, for this amazing conversation today.
You're welcome, and thanks
Thanks
to Juliana Hall for chiming in, and to Mrs. Olarsaba for chiming in. My mom always chimes in too, but she must have not known we were doing a matinee. Good night, or good afternoon, gentlemen.